Leverage is a concept often mentioned in strategy planning sessions. Perhaps you've heard the following: we need to find leverage to solve this problem. There's no leverage in that approach. What we're looking for is high leverage. Any ideas? In this video, you'll learn what it means to find high leverage, a useful framework for finding leverage, the iceberg, and how to apply the iceberg framework to find leverage in your strategies. So, what does high leverage really mean? How do we know if we have it? And what does it take? What skills and techniques are required to find high leverage? Let's start with defining leverage. Here are two definitions. My colleague, Danella Meadows, first described leverage points as these are places within a complex system, a corporation, an economy, a living body, a city, an ecosystem, where a small shift in one thing can produce big changes in everything. I've modified Dana's definition slightly. Finding high leverage is the ability to make a small change that produces a big improvement in a system with minimal resources and few negative unintended consequences. High leverage is the ability to find the solution, that small shift in one thing that fundamentally improves performance. It has maximum impact and usually impacts more than just the intended or primary performance measure. This type of impact can be called multi-solving. In order to understand how to find leverage, we must first explore how we identify issues where we need to find leverage to solve them. This is framing the problem. We'll use the iceberg metaphor to explain the process of first framing a problem and then identifying leverage. Imagine living on the surface of a great body of water. By scanning the surface, I see many interesting things. These interesting things, these events, shiny objects, capture my attention. The S&P 500 has just dropped. A famous celebrity couple has broken up. Wildfires just destroyed several Colorado homes. In winter, the first step in finding leverage is to observe the interesting. If I focus on my organization, I may see interesting events such as stock prices have fallen, our production inventory is now depleted, sales significantly decreased last quarter, customer satisfaction is at a new low, hiring is at an all-time high. These are all events. Events are those things that capture attention. In organizations, they are often referred to as fires. Some may be both urgent and important. At the ridiculous extreme, some might be unimportant clickbait. Often they are occurrences that generate reactions. If an organization focuses only on events, the workplace is often stressful because it operates in nearly continuous reactive mode. Imagine deciding to peer beneath the surface. Some events are actually connected with other important events. Before diving below the surface, it's necessary to filter out the unimportant and focus solely on the important issues. In the sales example, let's select decreased sales, depleted inventories, and lower customer satisfaction. Selecting only the important is something that's often done just subconsciously. The first step of finding leverage before fully diving below the surface is to consciously choose the important. This moves focus from the simply interesting to the truly important. What awaits below the surface? After selecting the important issues to understand and address, the next step is to create information. Information is different from data. Information is built by using only the most useful data that's then integrated, synthesized, analyzed, and interpreted to build understanding of the issues we wish to improve. You're often swimming in data. It's not the lack of data usually that's the problem. It's our inability to convert that data into useful information. I create useful information by expanding boundaries, by looking at the events more broadly. I frame them as issues that occur over time and over broader spatial dimensions. When I look carefully at the pattern of sales, I see a trend of oscillating sales. with some growth over the past couple of years. Expanding the temporal dimension helps me see this oscillation pattern. Expanding spatial boundaries helps me to compare the trend of sales to other trends, to production inventory and customer satisfaction. Those two are also oscillating, but they oscillate out of phase with sales. By seeing the interconnected pattern of trends, I generate useful information. Seeing patterns is a crucial step. It activates the ability to visualize the structure responsible for these trends. The next step, after seeing the patterns and trends, is to seek insight. Useful information is necessary to develop actionable insight. What's causing these patterns across the organization and customer ecosystem? To answer this question, I dive even deeper below the surface. The cause of these patterns is a systemic structure. The production system, the sales strategy, rewards and incentives, as well as the rules of operating, standard operating procedures. They are all components of the systemic structure. Leverage to solve an issue is only possible when we deeply understand the causal structure responsible for the interconnected dynamics to address. In the case of the oscillating sales issue, when price was reduced, it generated increased sales demand. This increased sales depleted inventory supply, bringing it to dangerously low levels. Lower inventories means customers needed to wait longer to receive product. This erodes customer satisfaction. Lower customer satisfaction leads to lower sales. The organization responds by increasing sales some way, which quickly leads to depleting inventory and eroding customer satisfaction. This creates the oscillations, the observed system performance. The decision rules just described are the structure underneath the patterns and trends. They generate those patterns and trends. I generate insight when I understand the structure generating the patterns. Where did the decision rules come from? The rules responsible for the systemic structure are mental models. The next step is to make an impact. This requires diving into our mental models. It's the collective mental models of those within the organization that put the decision rules, the structure in place. We have mental models about everything we experience in the world. Mental models are the theories we have about how something works and how we can influence it to work better. We run what we want to change through our mental models, and outcomes are decisions and actions. We have mental models about our children, what makes them tick, and how can we influence them to grow into healthy adults with maximum efficacy. We also have mental models about our organizations and the ecosystem it operates in. What do customers want? How should we produce and distribute our goods and services? What makes a high-performing organization? And more. Improving these mental models converts insight into impact. In the case of my fictional organization, a low-leverage mental model is to increase sales by lowering price. A high-leverage mental model is to balance supply and demand with price and invest profits to grow sustainably. Sometimes more than a big impact is required. Sometimes we need to innovate. Beneath the mental models used to make decisions are the paradigms we use to evaluate the world. Paradigms tell us what's good and what we want to see. They are the DNA behind our operating rules, the water we swim in. A difference in paradigms is like the difference between breathing through water and breathing through air. Dana Meadows provided an example of two different paradigms that have a profound impact on our mental models and structures. One paradigm of government is, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Another is, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. Each paradigm leads to drastically different goals and societal structures, and ultimately different behaviors. Being able to change paradigms is the highest leverage because it causes innovation. We create something brand new above in the iceberg that didn't exist previously. In the growth with oscillation example, a paradigm change would be to shift the goal from rapid growth to leading a sustainable organization. Growth is still possible, but the ideal becomes a sustainable organization, one that's stable with no fires. Another paradigm shift would be to move from only financial concerns to a triple bottom line set of concerns and multi-solve. Changing these paradigms makes it easier to adopt the high leverage mental model, the optimal strategy of keeping price at a premium. Would also begin a shift from competition to co-opetition, cooperating with traditional competitors in ways to create a sustainable industry. You can use the 6I framework to dive deeper down the iceberg and increase your likelihood of finding leverage. The 6I framework is as follows. 1. Avoid focusing only on the interesting, the events and fires. 2. Select the important, move down the iceberg, create information, identify the interconnected trends that best encapsulate the important. 4. Seek insight, visualize the systemic structure generating the trends. 5. Make an impact, identify how our mental models create the structure and identify the high leverage strategy. And 6, if possible, innovate. Find how our paradigms lead to ineffective mental models and change them. How does this apply to your strategy? Observe the interesting, of course, but then 2, select the important. Take all the issues that you are working on or find interesting, usually at the event level, and identify those 3 to 5 events, observations, aspects of those issues that you think are most important. Then 3, create useful information by drawing trend lines that describe these issues over the past few years. What shape have these trends taken? Oscillation, growth, decline, something else? What shape might these trends take into the future? What's the price paid if they continue in that direction? Do any all connect in some deeper way? Are there other important issues that connect that you don't normally think of as related? 4. Seek insight by visualizing the causal structure. What decision rules are determining this performance? And avoid simplistic analysis and solutions. In many cases, simply tweaking a number, for example, adjusting a budget item by a small %, doesn't significantly change the systemic structure. Instead, determine how information flows, incentives and rewards, standard processes, and other aspects of the business or community impact each other to generate performance. 5. Make an impact by understanding and revising the mental models that determine the decision rules, develop the processes, create the incentives, and determine how information is shared. Often we choose low leverage strategies because we continue using the same mental models to make decisions. We don't question those assumptions we hold about the challenges we wish to solve. And 6, innovate where possible, challenge common paradigms, approach an issue from a multi-solving perspective, see how setting different goals, perhaps an integrated social, environmental, economic set, would lead to different mental models and structure. View the goal as to multi-solve, to address multiple issues simultaneously. Avoid falling prey to the human tendency to kick the can down the road, to delay action or assume someone else will solve a problem. And build your capacity for mindfulness, to see the full iceberg. With that capacity, you have access to all potential leverage points. By using the iceberg, diving deeper into the 6 eyes, your chances of finding leverage, of making a small change that produces a big improvement in a system with minimal resources and few negative unintended consequences dramatically improve.